Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Adrian Pike. He is the CMO over at District M. Adrian, how's it going today?
It's going great. Thanks for your time today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Adrian, we're going to be diving into how to really get the best out of each part of your funnel. And I love just this concept in general of looking at holistically all of our marketing efforts. And you're going to break down some of those things for us a little bit more tactically. But before we jump into that, Adrian, I would love for you to share with listeners a little bit about your background and what you and your team are up to these days.
Sure, certainly. I'd love to. So myself, I've been around in business now for over 25 years, which scares me. And in that time, I kind of covered different roles from sales to development. And then I guess over the last 10, 12 years, I've really focused much more on marketing. I realized that was kind of the area of business that I found most enjoyable as well as most effective to support a business. The company that I work for is District M, as you've mentioned. We've been around for 6 years now, and we're the fastest growing ad exchange or ad tech firm. In essence, we're a digital media company that offers programmatic solutions for advertisers and publishers. And we've developed a platform that is geared for the full spectrum, so everything from a publisher through to an agency, through to a brand, or even an SMB. And our solutions are built to help them get the best from their programmatic advertising strategy.
I love it, Adrian. Well, let's dive right into today's topic on how to get the best out of each part of your funnel. And I know one thing you wanted to kick it off with is really looking at your different funnel markers and breaking up the funnel. Tell us a little bit about how you conceptualize, how you visualize this.
Yeah, for sure. So the three terms that some people will have come across, I would have thought, but if you haven't, it's tofu, mofu, and bofu. And that's really just to summarize top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. The idea is very much like a sales funnel in that marketers also need to have their own version of a funnel as well, because people, just like in a sales cycle, they're at different stages of engagement with a brand. And so we realized over the last few years that equally, when you're marketing to someone, they're at different levels of readiness to be engaged by a brand. And so typically a top of funnel engagement is with someone who probably doesn't know who you are and what you do, through to obviously the bottom of the funnel, which is they know your brand, they trust it, they're engaged with it, they know what you offer, and there's probably a good opportunity for them to work with you. And it's not just a great way to kind of build markers of where someone is in the engagement cycle from a marketer standpoint, but it also changes the way that you engage with those people, and also what it can ultimately impact how much it costs to engage with those people. So, if you think about what I would call a bottom of funnel lead, that is where someone has gone into Google and has searched for, I need a plumber today. And you can bet any money that every plumber in that region is bidding on that keyword so that they can win and hopefully have their ad or their business displayed as prominently as possible. Now, for them to win, they obviously have to pay more. And so therefore, although bottom of funnel leads are potentially good leads that could turn into, they have a high likeliness of turning into a client, they come at a cost. And so you can spread your budget so that you spend some onto what I call bottom of funnel leads, but then also it's advised that you also focus on the top and the middle of the funnel. So top of funnel is really the building the brand awareness. So making people aware of your organization and what you do. And the way I explain it to my team is that we are interested in the top of funnel people, but they have no interest in us. And so therefore we need to give them some kind of value. And so you build your content and your campaigns for top of funnel audience very, very differently to what you would do for bottom of funnel. Yeah. So top of funnel, top of funnel, you're really looking at the kind of educational pieces. So as a good example, where I used to work before, we would build pieces of content around how retailers or restaurateurs were leveraging technology in their business. And it wasn't specific to a particular piece of technology. It could be about any technology. And then as we moved people through the journey and focused on bottom of funnel audiences, then we would be much more specific about the value of our solution versus other people that offered a similar kind of solution.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They're the three kind of buckets to summarize to start with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that. And I think there's a change going on in B2B sales to talk about the other side of the house as you compared the sales funnel with the marketing funnel. I see a lot of salespeople who are treating top of funnel leads like you described, people that you're interested in, but they are not interested in you yet, who see the value of, hey, I'm offering you to give a demo of our product. That's my value. No, that's not your value. You need to give value where they are before you try to get value. And so I think that bears true on both sides of the house, whether you're running a sales team or a marketing team. So I love what you're talking about there. One of the other things I know that you've found as really important is to realize that there's no one silver bullet. As much as we want to chase, a new marketing technology or a new trend, that it does take a good mix across your entire funnel. Can you speak to how you've seen that maybe done well or done not so well in the past, Adrian?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting because, and I always like to put all these different caveats in, but it's depending on the kind of industry that you're in, the size of business you are, and the type of audience that you're talking to, it will change the mix portions of the different advertising channels you can use. So for some industries, they may find that events are the best way for them to build engagement, to educate, and to onboard new clients. Whereas other organizations may find that social media is the best route because that's where their audience is most susceptible to engagement from a vendor like that. So as a head of marketing, as someone who's ran a business, you're always looking for the easiest way to reach your audience and to get the best value from it. And the reality is, just like a diet, it needs to be a well blended and well balanced mix. Because for our industry, we find social media is an awesome way to initiate the first engagement with certain types of audiences. But then as we progress, we'll find that events are even better when it comes to building up that deeper relationship and that stronger trust, because there's the human engagement point there. Mm-hmm. So when we've looked at building solutions for our clients, they might say, is it display advertising? Is it retargeting that we should be doing? Is it social media? Is it AdWords? And the reality is, for a business to engage with their audiences, you kind of need to do a blend of everything, and you need to put yourself in your ultimate customer's shoes. Where are they going to be, when they're looking for something that you offer? And so, the real thing there is that you need to test different channels. You need to test every possible channel that is within your budget. And you think, once you've done your mental research, is it a right channel? Because for some industries, events just might not be relevant. So you can say, let's not even test that. Let's wipe that off the plate. But these other channels are ones that we could use and we think are right for the audience. Now let's work out which ones are strongest. And also, how do they tie back to those stages in the funnel? So top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you make a good point. In addition to just blending your approach like any good diet, as you put that analogy out there, but also you need to go where the attention is, not
Yeah.
just try to draw the attention to a channel that you think is important. And, the other thing you mentioned there, Adrian, is, starting with one channel and then see what is the 1-2 punch that works for you.
Yeah.
As you were describing social, which for us really has been, our podcast and LinkedIn, and then events, very much similar to you guys. We found as events as that follow up, that deepening of relationship after we've delivered value on social and through the podcast works really well. So I can imagine that would be the same for others as well. It sounds like it is for you too. So let's talk about tracking a little bit as you look at folks, as you look at accounts and leads that are moving through these different stages of the funnel. It's still a little bit harder than we think it ought to be these days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the reality is it doesn't matter how effective you are at running these campaigns and doing the events and doing your targeting and having the right budget. If you can't ultimately see which campaigns bringing you the value, then it doesn't really matter what you're doing before the conversion. And there's so many things that you want to track and record against. It's not just attendees to an event or clicks or impressions, but also when someone signs on, how long do they sign? If you've got a subscription, let's say, how long do they sign up for? What package do they go for? Because you might have 2 or 3 campaigns that have on paper the same conversion rate from lead to sale, but one particular campaign may have focused on a specific audience that will sign up for 24 months as opposed to the others, which might average out at 12 months. So tracking isn't easy because normally when you're running these campaigns, like I said earlier about doing a good blend, you're actually running on multiple platforms, on social media platforms, on advertising platforms, and also, on back of cigarette packets or on Google Docs if you host an event, for example. So it can be quite cumbersome if you're doing a blended marketing strategy for you to be able to track the value of everything. And more often than not, you see marketing teams that say, yeah, we think it's working, we're getting a good attendance or a good click through, but they've not spent the time digging into, great, we got a form filled, but did it turn into a client with the right lifetime value? Was it the right type of client for us?
Right.
And
That old saying of, 50% of my marketing budget is working. I just don't know which 50% it is.
Exactly that. And I think, a lot of people say, oh, I haven't got time to do this reporting, but it's, it pays for itself and tenfold thereafter, because when you can see the value that these campaigns are running, you can invest in those campaigns more. If you know that you have to work out, it doesn't matter what business you are, you need to know that balance of the cost to acquire a customer, the CAC, to lifetime value, the LTV. So it's a common tech company metric, which is CAC to LTV. But every business should know, how much does it cost me to acquire a customer, and what money or what lifetime value are they going to bring me over time? If you know that, it actually changes many other really important things, like what your marketing budget looks like. If you know that you can always have a positive ROI on spending, if it costs you, say, $50 to acquire a new customer, then why would you only limit your budget to, say, $200 a month if you know that they're always going to bring back the ROI that you're expecting? You can keep growing and growing. So it really helps you grow and scale a business when you know that kind of insight. And you can only do that when you do decent kind of analytics and reporting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the best marketers I know are either themselves accessing both that left and right brain, or they're building teams around them that are good at both sides, both the creative and the analytical. And it sounds like you're echoing that here as well. So we're definitely like-minded there, Adrian. So as we round it out here, I know the last thing you wanted to touch on was, as you look at people in different stages of the funnel, and as you look at different channels, another important variable in all of this is knowing when to outsource and when to insource different campaigns and different aspects of your overall programs. Can you give us, a couple of things that marketers should really be thinking about here? Maybe some metrics or some guiding principles that you use when it comes to this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Everything we talked about today if you think about the different stages of the funnel, different types of content that needs to be generated, different kinds of campaigns, physical, online, etc., and all the tracking you need to do, you realize that it doesn't matter what size business are you could almost need a full marketing team with 10 or 15 different skilled professionals working for you. So most companies can't justify that investment until they see the ROI. So the reality is, if you want to give a particular channel the opportunity it deserves to hopefully bring some value to your business, a lot of people will look at doing one or two things. One, if they've got the money, they'll look to find a third party, a consultancy or a vendor that can do the solution for them straight away. Or the other way, which a lot of business, especially the smaller ones, will do, is that they'll give it a go themselves. They'll do the DIY kind of approach. And what you end up finding is that whatever you do to start with, again, you have to do that previous point, which is analyze, understand the data, what is the ROI? And as you grow and scale, you need to monitor, do we have the right skill set to get the most from this activity? If we do, then we don't need to change anything. But as you grow, you may realize that, okay, we don't have the right skill set anymore in-house to continue to get the value that we want because we've increased our budget so much, or we're running so many more different campaigns, or whatever it may be. And that's when you start to look to outsource. And what's really interesting is that as a company grows and they get more and more success from a lot of these campaigns, you will see in a lot of cases that they realize that the cost of outsourcing becomes greater than what it would do if they could do it themselves, if they spent the time to hire and train and have actual full-time employees running these activities for them. So there is no such thing as we moved from outsourcing to in-housing these particular areas, and that's it. You'll find more, in many cases, businesses will actually almost metronome between trying it out themselves, as a kind of a super lean tactical approach to see if we can get it working, then through to working with specialists that can help them. And maybe that's the way they stay, but also maybe they might realize in a few years that they want to start doing it themselves. The important part here is that you're continuing to monitor the value that you're getting for the investment that you're putting in into the marketing activity.
Yeah, it definitely comes back to that reporting and the analytics that you were talking about earlier. I love it, Adrian. Well, this has been a great conversation. I love the way that you're breaking down, just kind of these visual grids that I have in my mind right now of, looking at your funnel from top to bottom, looking at your channels from left to right, and then applying a layer of data over all of that. That's just kind of what's cooking around in my head is what you're saying. And it's helped me visualize a few things. And I think it's going to be really valuable for listeners as well. If anybody listening to this, Adrian, would like to stay connected with you or maybe ask any follow-up questions on this topic that you might be able to help with, what's the best way for them to find you or reach out after this?
Yeah, I mean, you can contact me on my my company email address. So it's just nice and simple. It's adrian@districtm.net. You can also ping us on our Facebook page as well. So at District M Corp, you'll find us there as well, and also on LinkedIn.
I love it. Adrian, thank you so much for joining me on the episode today. This has been a ton of fun.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.